Next up, we have Cleo Diagnostics, ASX code CVO. The company is tackling one of the toughest challenges in women's health, which is ovarian cancer. Presenting for the company today is Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Andrew Stevens, and Head of Corporate Development, Dana Luca. Over to you two.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having us today. So,
Thanks,
I
Heather.
guess ovarian cancer, it's one of the deadliest diseases affecting all women. So, unfortunately, 50% of women die within just 5 years of diagnosis. And so, the main reason behind this is that there simply is no screening tool and no reliable diagnostic tool. And so as a result, there's a lot of unnecessary surgeries, a lot of uncertainty, and basically just a poor result all around. And as you can see by those mortality rates on the bottom of the screen, we've been largely able to reduce these mortality rates in breast cancer, cervical, and bowel through things like screening programs and fit for purpose diagnostic tests. And so that's where Cleo comes in, and that's the opportunity for investors today. So, Andrew, if you just want to flick to the investment highlights. We at Cleo are building a world-first blood test that will enable you to accurately identify ovarian cancer before surgery when it matters most. So our patented biomarker and our technology that underpins is our biomarker called CXCL10. It's completely unique to Cleo, and it's a breakthrough discovery founded by none other than Andrew himself, who I'll pass over to shortly to tell you a little bit more. And so CXCL10 is really changing what's possible in ovarian diagnostics. And why? Well, because it behaves quite differently. It lights up in the presence of ovarian cancer and it remains silent in benign disease. And so having that difference gives us the power to tell doctors with quite high confidence who needs urgent intervention and who doesn't. And within the current landscape, no one else can do that. So what Cleo has is it's a world first technology and backed by strong IP. It's already been validated in clinical studies, so it's a proven technology. And now we're progressing towards an FDA submission in the US next year, which is the biggest diagnostic market in the world. And so the ultimate goal for Cleo is to create a global screening program. And as you can imagine, the addressable market for that is very immense. You're talking millions of women worldwide. And so how we're going to get there is through a stage execution strategy to tackle the whole ovarian cancer market. And first, we're starting with our pre-surgical triage test. And so that's currently well underway, and we're progressing towards our pivotal clinical trial at the moment, with hopes to launch in the US next year. And so as you can see on the right-hand side, market cap of around $50 million. I really do think of Cleo as a late-stage company with an early-stage market cap. And I think if you do have a look at the similar comps in the space, to have such a company late stage in their clinical development at such a low market cap, I really think that provides a solid opportunity for investors. So yeah, Cleo to me really isn't just another biotech story. It's highly compelling. And having that near stage revenue opportunity, is definitely great for investors as well. So I might pass over to Andrew to dig a bit deeper into our technology, and he can tell you a little bit more about, why we're such a compelling investment today.
We're talking about ovarian cancer, obviously, and this is actually the highest or the most lethal of female reproductive cancers of anything. There's a couple of reasons for that, but one of the main ones is that it's asymptomatic. So there are no symptoms, there are no signs of ovarian cancer, and women simply don't know that they have it. And because of that, most cases are detected at a late stage. So the cancer has already grown and spread quite extensively. That makes it very difficult to treat surgically and remove any tumor. And of course, because of that, uh, almost all of these cancers will recur within a period of 12 months or so. So those things really underlie why this is such a lethal disease. It has, as you can see, a 51% mortality rate within 5 years. So toss a coin once you've been diagnosed as to whether you'll be alive. The median survival time for ovarian cancer is actually about 18 months. So one of the big questions is, well, why don't we actually test for it? Well, the simple answer is we don't have any screening the way that we do for breast and cervical and bowel cancer, for example. We don't even have a proper diagnostic test for ovarian cancer, which is actually crazy. So at the moment, For a woman who is suspected to have a gynecological issue, cancer has to be ruled out. And so there are two tests that are done. One is ultrasound, so imaging of the ovaries to visualize any lumps or bumps that might be present. But obviously that can't tell you whether it's cancerous or not. And the other one is a blood test called CA125, which some of the issues are in this grey box here. I don't expect you to read everything on this slide, but CA125 is notoriously inaccurate. Now, those two things together are not diagnostic. They are simply used to assess risk. And if the patient is determined to have a risk of cancer, they're sent to a surgeon. Okay. Now, the thing to remember here is that diagnosis only happens after surgery. All right. So the surgeries that are done are typically pretty extensive. And best case scenario, they will involve removal of the ovaries. Uh, Most of the time, that's along with a lot of other structures, so the fallopian tubes, parts of the uterus, parts of the bowel, and so on. Depending on how extensive disease is, the idea is to remove any suspicious looking tissue, and that is sent to pathology to make the diagnosis. Now, the big issue there, all right, diagnosis happens after surgery. Up to 90% of those patients never had cancer in the first place. All right. So women are having these surgeries, and the consequence of that surgery is not only the risk involved in a major surgery and recovery time, it's also what happens after. So once the ovaries have come out, those patients, if they're younger women, they are in instant menopause. They're not going to have children. For all patients, there is then a subsequent elevated risk of things like osteoporosis, dementia, heart disease, stroke, and so on. So this is really not an optimal clinical workflow at all. What we need is a way to decide who actually needs that cancer surgery, who really is at risk before they go to surgery, and potentially even whether they need the surgery in the first place. So that is the test that Cleo is bringing through to the market. So as Dana mentioned, we have some patented biomarkers, and I won't talk too much about the markers here. Um, the heart of the Cleo test is something called CXCL10. It's a protein that is produced as part of your inflammatory response, but in ovarian cancers, it's slightly modified, and that makes it quite specific for detecting malignancy and differentiating it from a non-malignant disease. And it's also present at a very early point in the cancer life cycle. So it's a good marker and a good early stage marker. And that marker panel that's been assembled is actually very effective. So this is a simple blood test. These metrics are just comparison against some of the other standard clinical tests. So in particular, RMI is the combination of ultrasound and CA125 that we use clinically now. And you can see that Cleo is far and away superior to that and any other biomarker-based tests on the market. In fact, we're getting close to 99% sensitivity at the same levels of specificity for postmenopausal women. And that detection, obviously, as I've said, also includes detection of early stage disease, which is very difficult to identify. So that technology is actually being rolled out into three separate tests. So the pre-surgical testing, which we call a triage test, is the one that I'm talking about today because that's the first product that Cleo will bring through. These other two I won't say much about, but that same technology underpins a recurrence test. So this is a test for women that have already been diagnosed with cancer to identify the earliest time point when that cancer starts coming back, which means that we have more time to develop treatments and treatment options for that patient. And of course, what we describe as the Holy Grail, which is the screening market. So this is where we regularly test the same way that we do, using a mammogram or a pap smear. We regularly test healthy women to identify early stage disease where it's actually very treatable and we can get up to a 95% survival rate. And the market size has obviously increased material as we go. But the important one is this pre-surgical triage test. So there are at least 1 million women in the US every year who will benefit from a test like this. Now, people always ask, where are we? And as Dana mentioned, we've got a very simple and very strategic and very focused approach to bringing this test through. So it starts way back here with the science. All of Cleo's science has been independently reviewed and verified by international experts in the field. It's all published and it's all in the public domain. So unlike a lot of other companies that are working in this space, everything that we do and everything that we say is backed up by hard evidence that's been independently reviewed, and it's freely available to any investors. So there's no smoke and mirrors and there's no glossy brochures. And that's really important. And it's the first thing I always say to anyone that's an investor is ask, where is the peer-reviewed data? Now, we're targeting FDA approvals for this test. The US is obviously the largest diagnostic market in the world. And our FDA application, or our first FDA application, which is going via the 510(k) pathway, is scheduled to be submitted in the first half of next year. We've already had a couple of meetings with the FDA over the last 12 months, and they've been very supportive and very positive about the experimental designs that we have. So that's good validation for us. Supporting that effort, of course, is the manufacturing of our kits, and that's scheduled to start within the next few months. And then our pivotal clinical trial, which supports this FDA application in the US, is almost complete. So recruitment is almost done. That will also finish within the next few months. So those activities are supporting our approval pathway. The other activities that are going on in parallel, we engaged with key opinion leaders in the space very early. So these are surgeons and clinicians in the US who will support the early adoption of this test. So as soon as the test is available, they will be providing it to patients. But they're quite important because they're not only providing the test, they will also lobby their own clinical networks to spread the word and get Cleo's test out there. And they will also lobby the insurers to make the early reimbursement case, and that's very important. On that note, for reimbursement, we've also commissioned a health economic study, which again is due to be completed around the end of this year. And all of those things together actually build a very strong case to lobby the health insurers and payers and get our own CPT reimbursement codes for the testing. So all of those strategies have been put in place quite early and they're ready to go as well. The one other thing that people always ask is, well, how are you selling the test? So Cleo will be operating via a B2B model. So we will be manufacturing and distributing, and we will be selling directly to the pathology companies. So not marketing ourselves, which is a much more efficient and much easier mechanism to get the test out for us. So we're very well placed both for the immediate future with our FDA applications and also to actually start hit the ground running with sales on day one. The last thing that I will draw your attention to is our board and our team. So we have a really quite outstanding team, and the thing I want to highlight here is that almost all of the people involved in this project, excluding myself, I have an academic background, but almost all of the people involved here have actually done this before. So we have a lot of experience in taking a product from a research bench and into the market, and the advantage that provides to Cleo, I really can't overstate how important that is. The other thing that I will mention is two of our board members here. So Professor Tom Jobling, who's one of the leading oncology surgeons here in Australia and is very well recognised internationally. Tom and I have worked together for a very long time. Tom was actually there the very first day that we identified this mechanism that underlies the testing. And I went to him and said, Tom, I think we have something. So very much like me, Tom has followed this technology into Cleo and now sits on the board supporting the activities and the rollout. And he'll be very important when we roll this out in Australia. And the other person I just wanted to highlight here is Lucinda Nolan. Lucinda Nolan was previously the CEO of something called the Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation. They're the largest philanthropic funder of ovarian cancer research here in Australia. And she was so impressed with the technology that she actually stepped down from the OCRF board to join Cleo and help us actually push this through and again assist once the technology comes to Australia. So basically, in summary, we have a very a leading first-in-class technology here for ovarian cancer detection, not only for basic detection but for detecting early stage disease, which is really important. There's nothing out there at the moment. We're going to change that. We've got a superior performance compared to any other test, either on the market or experimental. And we've got a really strong team and a strong strategy to get us over the line for this first product. So with that, I'll stop talking and happy to take questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you, Dana, as well. So the first question here is the FDA's guidance reinforced confidence in your clinical trial design and regulatory pathway. How does this reduce risk for investors and position Cleo strongly ahead of US market entry?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things the FDA are very good at is being collaborative. So the regulatory environment is quite complex, and bringing a diagnostic test through the market is actually a series of quite complicated and tricky steps. And the FDA is actually there to guide you through. So the process involves the FDA reviewing your study outlines, reviewing your proposals as to what you plan to do to prove what you're saying, to show that you've hit all the important safety and efficacy metrics that they need. And that's a process that's done in consultation with them. So when they provide positive feedback, and when they say that they will never say, yes, this is correct, they will say, we can't see anything wrong with this. And that's really important because that means your study design is right and you're ready to go to the next step. So that gives us a lot of confidence in what we're doing. We've also found, in the simplest of terms, as long as you do what the FDA tells you to do, you are pretty much on the right track. So we're feeling fairly confident about our submission.
Thanks, Andrew. And then just looking at the bigger picture, ovarian cancer remains a major unmet medical need with poor survival outcomes due to late detection. How do you see Cleo's pre-surgical test transforming patient care and clinical decision making?
This is actually going to be a very important one. On one hand, this is about, well, it's all about improving patient outcomes. So in the case where a patient doesn't have cancer, the treatment that they need is a lot more conservative, okay? Because you're not actually removing a cancer. The idea is to preserve ovarian function as much as you possibly can. And so by doing a test like this before these patients are having surgery, it means you can direct them to the right place and the right treatment. Um, on a more, I guess, global healthcare front, what's happening, and especially in the US at the moment, is that these patients are all sent to oncology centers. And as a result, cancer patients are actually having their treatment delayed because there are 20 patients lined up in front of them who don't have cancer, but there are only so many surgeons that can actually treat them. So a test like this is actually going to free up a lot of those resources and allocate better the resources in the health system to deal with those patients more appropriately. So that's going to be a really important outcome from this testing. And of course, the technology underlies, further testing as well. So earlier identification of recurrent disease, ultimately screening, and screening will save lives, as we know from many other examples.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you, Dana, as well. It's very impressive work you're doing, and I look forward to following Cleo's journey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.